If you look up Star Wars here on YouTube, what you're gonna find is a mixed bag. You'll see people worship Andor, sure, but they'll hate practically everything else made in the Disney era. Some of their criticisms are perfectly fair, mind you. I wasn't a fan of Jack Black and Lizzo in The Mandalorian either, nor did I like Reva's many death-defying stunts in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, or somehow Palpatine returned, or Boba Fett's speeder chase, or Trace and Rafa. You get the point. We've reached a point where the commercialization of the franchise has poisoned the waters, so to speak. It's become a relentless pursuit of profit driven by our collective $10 a month subscriptions to Disney+. It feels like the quality of the content has taken a back seat, doesn't it? It's not about telling a story for the moral's sake anymore. Rather, it's about greed. Star Wars is heading down the exact same path as Marvel, selling its soul for profit, surrendering to Disney's franchise milking machine. So why watch? What's the point anymore? Where's the heart in Star Wars? You know, the thing that made it great in the first place? Ahsoka begins in a fractured galaxy, one struggling to recover from the past while failing to learn from its mistakes. Already, the New Republic is as cripplingly bureaucratic as the Republic that came before it. It refuses to listen to one of its best generals and feigns ignorance in regards to the threat Thrawn poses to the galaxy. Baylan, Shin, and Morgan Elsbeth can pursue him from the ends of the known world to a galaxy entirely new, heralding their heir to the Empire. So who's to stop them? Our two broken protagonists. Sabine Wren, whose entire life story is a tragedy, born to a society usurped by a Sith Lord and invaded by the Empire shortly thereafter, manipulated into designing a weapon to be used against her own people and abandoned by her family for speaking out against their would-be killers. Her surrogate father killed before her eyes, and Ezra Bridger, her brother-in-arms and quite possibly more than that, sacrificed himself as well. Then the day finally came when the Empire turned its eyes towards her home, and so too did her Mandalorian family fall. And Sabine's one hope, her Jedi Master Ahsoka Tano, abandoned her just before, leaving Sabine to revel in her grief completely and utterly alone. Ahsoka too has a story far darker than most. Introduced as an energetic, snippy sidekick to Anakin Skywalker, her years as a soldier hardened her not into the peacemaker she felt compelled to become, but rather into a warrior, a soldier. Her order then abandoned her on false accusations. Her friends, the clones, turned on both her and all her former companions, killing just about all of them. And who made this horrific slaughter possible? None other than her master, Anakin Skywalker. The man she had once so confidently claimed would never fall to the dark side. Face to face against him, the man who trained her for years and loved her like family, Ahsoka refused to abandon her former master behind the mask, believing that more lay behind it. Yes, there was certainly good in him, but that was not her destiny to uncover. The man she once admired more than any other would have killed her had it not been for the intervention of Ezra Bridger. Such a traumatizing encounter, though, certainly left its mark. Gone was the once energetic, witty, and hopeful soul that I grew up watching on Cartoon Network. In her place was a stoic, apprehensive, fearful woman. Fearful that others would fall just as Anakin did. Fearful that there was no hope for the galaxy should Thrawn return. Afraid of failing her own apprentice just as her master failed her. She pursues Thrawn out of the fear of what he should do should he be rescued. She enlists Sabine once more out of fear of failing to stop Thrawn alone. She goes to destroy the map, convinced that nothing good could possibly come out of it. And consumed by this fear, haunted by her inherited legacy, she loses to Baylan's skull. Sabine, watching her master fall to her death, loses the last tether to any semblance of meaning, of purpose, of fulfillment in life. She is once again alone, and her only hope of escaping this depressed state is none other than Ezra Bridger. She trades the map, and by extension Ezra's own sacrifice, for the chance to see him again, to not be alone. Because without that chance, she's convinced herself that life is hopeless. Ahsoka awakens in the world between worlds to find her master, the source of all she knows, and by extension, everything she fears. For her final lesson, Anakin offers her a choice: to live or to die. A strange question to pose to one's student, sure, but it's far more profound than it sounds. Should she allow Anakin's fall to define her future and allow this despair to shroud any chance of rebuilding what his actions cost the galaxy? Or should she acknowledge the good in him that she once admired and by extension, renew in herself the hope she once had for the world? She's given the opportunity to strike Anakin down, to extinguish the evil she's seen within him. The darkness she fears is within herself. But instead, she chooses to spare the memory of the good man he once was. Because the good in him outweighs the bad, because her hope for the future outweighs her fear of what it might bring. Because there's always something worth fighting for. The correct answer is always to live. Awoken, Ahsoka begins to see the world differently, returning to the upbeat, hopeful nature that I admired so much as a kid. Much like Gandalf before her, Ahsoka sheds her gray attire in exchange for white robes, completing her transition from samurai-esque warrior to the epitome of what a Jedi should be, a symbol of hope. She wasn't ready to train Sabine before, but now she's prepared to teach her Padawan this most important of lessons, that there is always hope. A theme as quintessentially Star Wars as they come.
George has this hopeful story, and it's something that he's reiterated most times I've seen him, after we've been making things without him, is remember to make these stories hopeful. It's not about X-Wings, it's not about all the things we decorate Star Wars in. It's important, it's part of the genius of it. But we soulfully react, like, we don't just want an action movie, we want to feel uplifted. And Star Wars is an adventure that makes you feel good. It makes me feel like, wow, I want to be a part of that.
And that's precisely what Episode 5 of Ahsoka did for me. It gave me hope. It reminded me not to fixate on my flaws, fears, and failures as a human being, but to see beyond them, to recognize the potential to better myself, to make a difference, to help others, and to journey into the next chapter of my life, no matter how uncertain or difficult it may be, with unwavering hope. Not simply for myself, but for us all.